Welcome back to my Roblox beginner scripting tutorial series. My name is BrawlDev, and if you've made it this far into the series, well, first of all, shout out to you for making it this far, but second, I have good news for you. This is the final new concept we're going to be learning inside of this tutorial guide, and I'm going to go more into detail about this later, but essentially in the next episode after this one, we're going to be taking everything we've learned and putting it all into our first game that we're going to be creating. And before we can do that, I need to teach you this last concept, which arguably is the hardest one in the series, and it's also going to be the longest one in the series. So this one's gonna require your full attention, and I hope that you're gonna be able to understand this concept by the end of this episode. So what are we gonna be learning for this final concept? Well, I'm gonna be teaching you tables and how to use them inside of your Roblox games. So what is a table? It's basically a data structure that holds multiple pieces of data together all inside of one sort of collection. So it's when you take multiple pieces of data with different data types, you put them together so that you can manipulate them or move them around or even access them as you so desire to, all contained within one collection or one table or one group or however you want to call it inside of your script. And there's two types of tables that I'm going to be teaching you inside of this video. One of them is arrays and the second one is dictionaries. So if we were to go to the Explorer and then we inserted a script inside of the workspace, I'm going to rename the script to tables and I'm going to hit enter just like this, and I'm also going to delete the code here. Okay, so the first one I'm going to be teaching you is arrays. Now, basically what an array is it's a table where we group values together in sequential order. And it's just going to be values that we're going to be storing inside of a table, and that's all it is going to be. So if I were to show you what this looks like, let's first create a variable. So I'm just going to call this one local my array, just like this. And then we're going to set this equal to a new syntax that I haven't showed you before, because this one is going to be specifically for creating tables. So what we're going to do is write down the open and close curly brackets just like this. So we're not going to be using open and close parentheses like we have been in a lot of the tutorials in the past, but instead we're going to be using open and close curly brackets to indicate that this is going to be a new table that we're going to create. And right now this table is empty because we haven't put values inside of it. So let me show you how to add values inside of this array. So what we can do is basically put down whatever value we want, and this can be of any type. It can be a number, it can be a string, just like this, or it could even be a boolean as well. It doesn't really matter what it is, but let's say for our first value we put inside of here, it can be a number 10, just like this. Now, if we want to add another value to this, we separate each value we add with a comma, just like this, and then we add something new, like a string. We can do the same thing with adding a boolean, and we could probably add another number as well, like, I don't know, 500 or something. And so now we have 4 values inside of this table. Now, what's interesting about an array is, first of all, we're just adding values inside of this table. But second, the way we access values is also in sequential order from the left side all the way to the right side. So it's important to know how to access values inside of an array, and that's by using their positional value of where they're located inside of the table. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, if we started at 10, this is essentially at position 1 inside of the table. And if we were at this string value, it's at position 2 inside of the array. This one's at position 3, and then this one's at position 4. So it goes from left to right, just like this. Now, if we were to access a specific value inside of this array, then we would drop a line just like this. We'll make a print statement. And then what we're going to do is, let's say we want to access the first value inside of here. Then what we're going to do is first write down the array just like this, say my array. And then we're going to add in open and close hard brackets just like this. So it kind of looks like a square just like this, because what we're going to put inside of here is a positional value that's going to essentially look through the table, finds the value that's inside the position, and then it's going to return it. So in this case, we're going to look at position 1. So this is what we're going to put inside of here. So it's going to go through the table and it's going to look for position 1 and it's going to return 10 and it's going to print that. So if we go into the game, hit test and hit play, then what we should see in the output is the number 10 because the array was successfully able to look for whatever value was inside of position 1. And we can do the same thing with, I don't know, position 3. And if we go to the game and hit play, then it's going to return true because that's what was in the third position. I hope this is making sense so far, and this is how we're essentially able to access and use arrays inside of our game. Now, what if we wanted to print out out every single value that's inside of this array? Well, we're basically just going to use a for loop. So what I'm going to do is comment out this print statement. I'm going to drop 2 lines, and then we're going to make a for loop. So what we're going to do is say for, and then we can call this counter variable the index, just like this. And we're going to set this equal to the first position of the array, which is always going to be 1. And then we're going to space this out with a comma. And then the max value is going to be the number of elements that are inside of our array, which in this case is going to be 4. Now, we could say 4, but there's actually a better way of doing this, because what if we change the value of this every single time? Oh, and by the way, I forgot to hit stop. My apologies on that. If we were to add another value really quickly, just like this, then this is going to be 5 elements instead of 4, and we're going to have to constantly come back and update this value every single time. So there's actually a better way of doing this that can automatically update the end value for however many elements we have inside of here, and that is called using a hashtag symbol or a pound symbol. So what it's going to look like is basically this, and we're going to put down my array. So essentially what's happening here is we're taking the array and we're using a hashtag or pound symbol before it to basically give us the number of elements that are inside of this array. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 elements inside of here. So this is going to return 4. So that's a better way of getting the number of elements inside of an array. It's by doing it like this. So then we're going to say do, and then we're going to hit enter. Now we're going to make a print statement, and we're going to access my array just like this. And then inside of the hard brackets, we're going to put down the index, because it starts at 1, and then once we go down this iteration, it's going to update this index to 2, and then it's going to go to the second one, and then the third one, and then the fourth one, and then it's going to print out every single one. So if we go to the game, hit play, then what we should see is every single value inside of the array being printed just like so, because that is how we iterate through all of the elements within an array. Okay, but this is how we print all the elements inside of an array using a for loop. But why can't we just print the array itself? So if I were to delete this and then just print out my array, there's a lot of technical reasons behind doing it like this. But if I were to show you what this looks like, if we go into the game and hit play, then it's going to show a table with a hash value that's contained within it. Now, again, this relates to a lot of backend stuff when it comes to creating objects and storing them inside of memory within the game. And I don't want to go into those technical details right now, but basically what you need to know is you can't print the array itself because the array is a table object. So it's not going to print out whatever's contained in the table itself, since we're just going to have to go through every single element in the array to print them individually instead. So that's just something quick I wanted to add, and that is basically the introduction to arrays. Now, Roblox has some very useful functions that can allow us to manipulate items in a table while the game is running. So if we were to, let's say, think of an example of when this would happen inside of an actual game, is if you were to unlock a pet inside of Pet Simulator X, or if you were to unlock a new aura inside of like an RNG game or something like that, then we have to add the new value to our inventory table. But that's like an oversimplified example I can give when it comes to those sorts of things. But the important thing we need to know about is being able to add and remove values from a table while the game is running. So I'm going to show you 2 methods that Roblox has for us within a infrastructure or a library that they have for us. So I'm just going to delete this piece of code over here. And we're first going to make a new table. So I'm going to say local my array equals, and then we're going to put in the open and close curly brackets just like this. So this represents an empty table. So what I'm going to do down here is drop 2 lines. And here's what we're going to do. So we're going to use Roblox's library called table in all lowercase just like this. And then when we hit dot, then there's going to be all these methods we can use. And the first one I'm going to show you is called table.insert. And this basically allows us to add values to this array that we have over here, or just any table in general. So we're first going to pass in the my array table, and then for the second argument, we're going to add a value that's going to be put at the end of this array. So at the end of this array, we can put down, let's say, the number 10. So if I were to basically explain what this does, this is an empty array right now, and if we were to see all the elements within this table, then it's going to start with nothing. But then if we use table.insert to insert a number to this array, then the only thing that's going to be here is going to be 10. So let's see what this looks like if we were to print out all of the elements within the array. So if I were to say for I, I'm just going to say I, which is short for index, and I'm going to set this equal to 1, comma, and then we're going to use the hashtag symbol, my array, just like this, and then we're going to say do, and then we're going to print out every single value that's going to be within the array, passing in the index counter variable, just like this. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it down here so we can see it twice. So if we were to go to the game and hit play, then what we should see is just the number 10, because when we tried to print the array the first time, there's nothing to print. And then we added 10, and this is what added more values to it. So if I were to hit stop and show you what this looks like, if we were to have a populated table beforehand before adding something else. So if I were to, let's say, have 10, 20, and 30 as the starting array, and if I were to insert, let's say, 40, then what's going to happen is it's going to insert 40 at the end of the table. Rather than at the beginning or in the middle or just somewhere random, it's going to put it at the end of the table. So if I were to hit play once again, then it's first going to start with 10, 20, and 30. But then it's going to print out the new table with 10, 20, 30, and 40 because it added 40 at the end of this array right here. And that is essentially how you insert new values inside of an array. So I'm going to hit stop. And now let me show you what happens if we try to remove a value. So I'm going to drop 2 lines once again, and I'm going to say table.remove just like this. And then inside of here, we're going to pass in my array. And now for the second argument, you have to be careful about this one because we passed in a value for the second argument for table.insert. But for table.remove, we're passing in an index, a positional value to basically look for the value in this array that matches the position and it's going to remove it. So if I were to, let's say, put in 4, then it's going to check for the 4th position and then remove whatever values inside of there. So if we were to insert 40 beforehand, then it's going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, and whatever's going to be on the 4th position, which is 40, that's what it's going to remove. Rather than 40, which is the value itself, it's going to remove whatever's at the 4th position, which is going to be 40. So now if I were to copy this once again and then paste it, then what we should see if we go into the game is first we're going to see 10, 20, and 30, then we're going to see 10, 20, 30, 40, and finally we're going to see 10, 20, and then 30. So that is how you use table.insert and table.remove to add and remove values from an array when you're working with them inside of the game, like while the game is running. The last thing I'm going to talk about with arrays is being able to search through values in the array and then look for specific values within them when we're looping through a script. So what I'm going to do is basically just delete all of these statements we have except for the very first line. And I'm going to add more numbers to this. Like we could just say 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So we're just going to go from 10 to 100. Now, if we were to loop through all of these values in the array, so if we were to say for I equals 1, comma, pound symbol, my array, do just like this. And then what we're going to do is basically write a conditional here by saying, if my array in hard brackets, then we're going to put down the index like so. So if my array with the index counter variable right there is equal to, let's say 50, then we're going to make a print statement saying 50 has been found just like this. And then if we were to go into the game and hit play, then obviously it's going to say 50 has been found inside the table. But if we were to remove this and if we hit play, then it's not going to print anything because we removed the 50 that we were trying to look for. Okay, now there's another way we can look for values within a table and we don't have to use a for loop for this. So what I'm going to do is basically just comment out this block of code right over here, and I'm going to drop 2 lines. So what I'm going to do is write a simple function that Roblox has for us called table.find, open and close parentheses, just like this. And I'm actually going to wrap this in an if conditional as well. So I'm going to say if table.find, and then what we're going to put inside of here first is the array itself. And then for the second argument, we're going to put down whatever value it is we're trying to look for, which let's say it's 50. So if table.find my array 50, then we're going to print 50 has been found just like this. And if we go into the game and hit play, then what we should see is 50 has been found. Now, the reason this is useful is because it also returns the index of where it was able to find this value. And if it didn't find it, then it's just going to return nil. So I could say something like local index equals, and then we could just copy this code we had over here, put it inside of here. And then we're going to say if index is not equal to nil, so this is basically the same thing as what we had previously, then it's going to say 50 has been found. But if you want to make it more simple, you could just say if table.find my array 50, it's going to return the index. But in this case, we don't really need the index, so that's why we could just keep it like this. Then it's going to say 50 has been found. So these two basically do the same thing. It's just a matter of preference of which one you want to do, and that is how you search through values in an array. So the next table type is a dictionary, and I'm gonna first show you this by quickly removing our comments that we had here, and I'm also going to comment out the remaining bits of code just so that we can have the array code as reference for our dictionaries. Okay, so what is a dictionary? Well, it's basically another type of table that allows us to search through values inside of a dictionary using using a key. So when we attach a key to each of these values that's within the dictionary, so we can search up these values by using a key that we've attached to each one of these values. So I want you to imagine like a real life English dictionary where every single word that you see or every single term that you see has a definition attached to it. So if we were to look for a definition of a term, then we search up the term and then we get the definition of that term. So it kind of works the same way here if we're using a table. So if I was to show you how this would look like, we're basically going to create a new dictionary by, let's just say local, let's call this menu. So we're going to create a new menu with different items that we can order inside of this restaurant that we just, I don't know, created off the top of our head with a price associated with them. So what I'm going to do is say local menu, and we're going to set this equal to open and close curly brackets, just like we did with the arrays. But this time what we're going to do is, for organization purposes and also for readability, we're actually going to drop a line like this. So this is still one table, but each single item that we add is going to be spaced out for every single line that we add inside of here. So here's how it's going to look like. There's two ways of writing keys, and this is the first way I'm going to show you. So we're basically going to write open and close hard brackets, and then we're going to put double quotations inside of here. And then we can put down whatever menu item name that we want inside of here. Like, let's say we want to add a cheeseburger, just like this. This is going to be the key, but now we're going to set this equal to a value on the right side, which let's say we're going to make this cheeseburger 15 bucks, just something as ridiculous as this. And then we're going to drop a comma and then we're going to hit enter. So as you remember, the way we separate items is by using a comma. And so now we can add another item inside of here by basically putting in open and close hard brackets, and then we're going to put in the double quotations. And then we can add something else inside of here, like let's say cola. We're going to make this a $4 cola, just like this. And then now we have two items inside of here. And we can continue this trend by putting in other things in here, like, I don't know, we can put pancakes inside of here. We're going to set this equal to $8, and then we can add one more thing inside of here. Like, let's say we wanted to add good old milk, just like this. We're going to set this equal to 4 as well. So we've added in 4 entries inside of our dictionary. So this, whatever's on the left side is going to be our key, and then whatever's on the right side is going to be our value. Now, like I said, there's a second way of being able to write keys, and that's just by using the variable itself. So we could just say cheeseburger, just like this, and this is another valid way of writing it, but I'm going to show you more about this later on. So this is how we write one, and if we want to access a specific value inside of this menu dictionary, we're going to write a print statement, and then we're going to specify the menu, but this time, instead of specifying an index, we're going to specify the key that we're trying to look for, which in this case, it's going to be, let's say, cheeseburger. It's going to then return the value of this cheeseburger, which is going to be 15 bucks. So if we go into the game and hit play, then what we should see is the number 15 inside of the output, because we were successfully able to look for the value given the key that we gave it. So if we hit stop, if we were to, let's say, print multiple values, so if we were to say menu, and then inside of here, we're going to say cola, and then we're going to space this out again by saying menu, and then inside of here, we're going to say milk. And if we go into the game and hit play, then we should see all the prices for each of the items that we searched for inside of this dictionary. So we have 15, 4, and then 4 again. So that is how you access values inside of here. Now, once again, there's another way of writing keys. So I'm just going to comment out this part of the code, and I'm going to just write down the menu again by saying local menu equals open, close curly braces, and then we're going to hit enter just like this. So we can say cheeseburger as a variable, and then we're going to set this equal to 15, and then we can add another one like cola. We're going to set this equal to 4. So I'm just going to add 2 of these really quick. So now if we were to access these variables, we're going to just simply say menu dot whatever the variable is, which is going to be cheeseburger, and this is going to do the exact same thing. So if we go to hit play, then it's going to print out the value, which is 15, since that is the price of a cheeseburger. So these are 2 ways you can write dictionaries, and I hope you found this part to be useful. Now, one more thing I would like to add is we can modify values in the dictionary that we create. So I'm just gonna hit stop really quick. I forgot to do that. And I'm just going to comment out this block of code we have over here, and I'm going to uncomment what we had up here with our previous menu. So what we can do here is we can actually manipulate values given the key that we give it. So what we can do is say menu, and then inside of the hard brackets, we can specify what the key we're trying to modify is. So we could say, let's say cheeseburger. We can change the price of this cheeseburger to something different. Like let's say we change this to $5 instead of 15. Then if we were to access this value inside of the game now, so if we were to go to the game and hit play, then it's going to say 5 instead of 15 because we were able to change the value just like this. And we can basically do the same thing with the other way we created the dictionary. So if I were to comment this out one more time, and if I were to uncomment this part, we can basically just say menu.cheeseburger equals 5 just like this, and it's going to do the exact same thing. If we go into the game, then it's going to print 5 just like that. And so that is how we use dictionaries inside of our scripts. So we know how to use for loop and also being able to use index values to iterate through a table, but there's actually a more conventional way of iterating through tables, especially with key value pairs, and that's with the use of pairs loops, which is going to be the final concepts we're going to be learning about inside of this tutorial guide. And this is going to be a very important one to know about. So what I'm going to do really quickly is delete the code that we've had at the end here, and I'm also going to uncomment the first dictionary creation we had over here with the menu. Okay, so what do I mean by pairs and ipairs loops? Well, basically, when we've been accessing items inside of our dictionary with the key and value, we've had the key, and then that would return the value of whatever's going to be contained inside of this dictionary. But if you want to be able to access all the keys and all the values while we iterate through all of the items within a dictionary or just a table in general, we need to know how to use pairs and ipairs loop, because this is also useful if we're trying to iterate through multiple items within one object inside of the Explorer. And that's what I'm going to be showing you how to do first with tables and then with models inside of our game. So what I'm going to do is basically just remove these 2 lines of code we have over here, and we have our menu currently right here. But what we're going to do is say for, and we're actually going to create 2 variables with this pairs loop. So the first one is going to be a variable for the key. So we're going to say for menu item just like this, and then comma, we're going to say whatever the variable of the right side is going to be, which is going to be the price. And then we're going to say in pairs just like this. And then we're going to say open and close parentheses, and then we're going to pass in the menu dictionary like this, and then we're going to say do like so. So what's going to happen here is we have 2 variables. One of them is going to be for the key, and then the other one's going to be for the value, which is the price. And we're going to iteratively go through this dictionary in pairs with the menu item and also the price. So if we were to make a print statement by printing out the menu item along with the price just like this, and we go into the game and hit play, then what we should see in the output is every single item that's inside the menu with the price that's next to it. So this is how we're able to iterate through a table that gives us 2 variables. One of them is going to be the item and the other one's going to be the price. And that is basically how you make a pairs loop. Now you might have noticed that when we printed out all of the items that are contained within the menu, it's out of order. It started with pancakes, then it went to cheeseburger, cola, and then milk. So the reason it went out of order is because when we're using pairs, it's going to pick the items inside of the dictionary inside of a random order, and it's just going to print out everything that's inside of there. That's why we need to use what's called ipairs, which is actually going to iterate through all of the items sequentially from where it is first created to where it is last created. And I'm going to be showing you this using the myArray that we created at the top of this code right over here. So what I'm going to do is comment out all of this code with the dictionary, and I'm going to uncomment everything that has to do with our array that's over here. I'm actually going to delete this part of the code right here. So if we're going to be iterating through all of the elements within this array, we don't necessarily need to use keys for this, but instead we're going to create an index variable. So what we're going to do is say for index, comma, and then we're going to say number in ipairs just like this. And then inside of here, we're going to put my array just like this. And then we're going to say do like that. So what we can do from here on out is just basically print out the index and also print out the number as well. So what's essentially going to happen here is, since we're using ipairs, it's going to start at the very beginning and it's going to go in sequential order all the way till the end. An index is going to be the position of where each of these items is going to be inside of this array. So it's going to be 1, 10, 220, 330, because it's going to print out the position and then it's going to print out whatever the value is for each item inside of the array. So if we go into the game and hit play, then what we should see is 110, 220, 330, 440, 550, just like this. And this is how we use ipairs, and also how we're able to go through every item in sequential order. So now I'm going to hit stop, and that's basically how we use ipairs inside of our scripts. Now there's 2 more tips that I can give you that's very useful, and that is basically hiding variables that we don't need. So For this index instance, we can actually just use an underscore to basically say that we don't want this variable since we don't need it. And this is how we use a pairs or an ipairs loop if we don't want a specific variable. We can even do it with value as well, but I don't know why you would do that since we don't really need to do that. But usually this is helpful for indexes if you don't need the index when you're looping through a pairs. So this is just something I wanted to add in case you wanted to use this inside of your for loops, since I do use this quite a bit. And I'm going to show you how this is useful for what I'm going to show you last. So this is going to be the last thing we're going to be doing, and that is using a model and iterating through all the parts inside of the model. So what I'm going to do is take our model that we created from one of our previous episodes. I forgot which one it was. I think it was events. But basically, if you don't have a model like this, you could just quickly create one and add 3 parts inside of this model. And what I'm going to do is, well, first of all, I'm going to comment out all the code we have over here, and I'm going to make reference to our model that we created inside of the workspace. So I'm going to say local model equals game.workspace.model, just like this. And what I'm going to do is loop through every single item that's inside of the model. So I'm actually going to delete the script that we have inside of here, and we're going to iterate through all the parts that are in here. So we're going to say for, and we can say index, comma, and we can say part in pairs, just like this, open and close parentheses, and then we're going to say model. But model is a model data type. But what we want is a table full of all of the objects that are contained within the model. So what we can do is say colon get children, just like this, open and close parentheses, and then we can say do. Now get children basically returns a table full of every single child that is within the model parent, just like this. And so what we can do here is basically use all these parts to our advantage, and this is how we loop through models using pairs. So we can basically print out, let's say, the part.name for every single one of them. And this is how we can basically access multiple parts inside of a model that's grouped together within one table. And this is how we can use tables and pairs to basically manipulate whatever it is we want inside of our scripts inside of groups. So as you can see, it printed out part 3, part 1, and part 2, just like so. And we can do a whole bunch of other things like change the parts and also whatever it is we want to change within them. So that is basically everything that I have to offer for you for this tutorial guide. Now, we are not finished with the tutorial guide because in the next episode, we're going to be taking everything we learned inside of this tutorial guide and we're going to create our first game before we conclude this tutorial guide. And I'm very excited to see it. If you've made it this far into the tutorial guide, I can't thank you enough for watching through all these tutorials because you're learning a lot just from watching every single video and applying everything that you've learned inside of every video and then putting your code in the comments of all of the videos that you've been watching up until this point. You're learning a lot, and I'm excited to see what you're going to be creating with what I've taught you throughout this tutorial guide. So once again, for the final learning objective, well, this might be the final one or it might not be, I'm not really too sure. But for today's learning objective, I want you to take all of what you've learned with tables, whether that be through dictionaries or with arrays, and also with pairs and ipairs. I want you to do whatever you want to do with them. You're completely free with whatever you want, and take in whatever you learned throughout this entire tutorial guide inside of your code as well to make one final script. And I want you to take everything you've learned and put it inside of the comment section of this video so that other people can see it, and whatever it is that you feel comfortable sharing as well. I want you to share that to the world, just like I've been sharing my knowledge to you. So with that being said, that's going to be for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.